Hello and welcome to the Bring the Noise podcast. Today, very special guest. I say that to everybody, to be fair. I say everybody's a special guest, but this one's kind of a celebrity guest, I suppose. This man, everybody kind of knows your story, Matt, to be honest. Very outspoken the last 3 years, 2 years, two and a half years, 3 years.
Yeah, 3.5 years now.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I take my hat off to you completely. And if I'm being honest with you, Matt, I know you've done a lot of podcasts, I know you've done a lot of interviews, but this one is probably one of the most important ones because I am the evidence,
You are the evidence, mate.
and I'm hoping that all the footballers, you pass this one to the footballers because a lot of them might not know who I am. And who I am is my name's John Watt, and I nearly died from the Pfizer booster vaccine back in November 19th, 2021. Where you see me right now, everybody will think I'm okay. You've seen how long it's taken me to set this up, Matt, and trust me, I am far from okay, and I've spent about £40,000 to get my life back. So for everybody who's looked down their nose at you, for anyone that's not spoken out, I think you all need to give Matt a little text message or a phone call to say, I'm sorry, because all he was trying to do was warn people about the possible complications from this vaccine. But let's get into it, Mr. Matt Tissier. I've watched so many and you say the same stuff, and I'm kind of like, let's try and get new raw material out you. Everybody knows you as Matt Tissier, the footballer. So I want to know Matt Tissier, the footballer, but I want to know the Matt Tissier, the man. So we'll go briefly briefly into your childhood.
Sure.
And when did you think I'm going to be a footballer?
Yeah, I would say, obviously, growing up in Guernsey wasn't really a hotbed of football. It had had a couple of professional footballers in the past. And so kind of growing up over there and having the ambition to be a professional footballer was, quite a fairly unique thing. And I reckon I must have been about 8 when I really thought, yeah, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I think I can be good enough to be a professional footballer. So I kind of stayed in Guernsey, played all my football over there. I was standing out in the teams that I was playing in. But I never really understood how good I could be or how good I was until I went to the mainland and started playing against kids from England, because growing up on a little island like that, you're very secluded. You never really know just how good you are, and if there were like hundreds of players like me in England, and maybe I'm just one of many. Mm-hmm. So it was only when I came across when I was kind of 14, 15 years of age and started training with firstly Oxford and then Southampton that I started realising, okay, I'm training with all these other kids here who are being looked at, but
It was never
still
pushed
good.
on by your father or anything like that. It's not like your dad was like, you need to be a footballer or anything like that.
No, my parents were very chilled. They've never pushed any guys. I've got 3 older brothers. They've never pushed any of us. In fact, 2 of my brothers were, I would say, equally as good as me.
Right.
Both of them had
At football?
chances. Yeah. Both of them had chances to be professional footballers. So one of them turned down a professional contract at Oxford. And one turned down an apprenticeship at Southampton, of all places. And
What did they become? What did they go into?
they're now both taxi drivers. They weren't. That wasn't their.
Are they
their
one of
jobs
the
back
taxi
then.
drivers that go like, I could have been the other Letitia?
Yeah. So when people they pick people up at the airport and the guys see their names and they go, oh, do you know Matt Tissier? And they'll always go, yeah, he's my brother, but I was better than him, and they believe that. But they were pretty good footballers themselves. But they both got homesick and didn't want to leave the island.
Right.
And my mum and dad never pressured them into it. They let them make their own decisions, and that's what they did to me.
Guernsey, isn't it? That's where you're from. And that's the one thing that annoys me about you, because you had the opportunity to play for Scotland. You could have played for the 4 countries, is that correct?
I could have played for any of the home nations, yeah. So
And you
sorry
decided
about that, mate.
you decided to go for England, and they didn't even want to try and give you a good chance, a good run at it, mate.
I know, they only gave
You
me
should
8
just went-
caps. If I'd have taken the Scottish route, I'd have still been in the team now.
Aye. Well, I say, mate, I agree with that. I totally agree with that. You know, you'd be going to Germany. But so you get into you realised at a very young age wasn't pushed on you, and then when did it become this is it? This is me a professional. How like
So what happened was when I was 14, I left Guernsey to go and live in Oxford, and the idea was I was go to school in Oxford, finish my schooling there, and at the weekends and holidays I would train with the other Oxford schoolboys. So I did that, and I moved over to Oxford in the Easter holidays, and so I spent 3 weeks with a family, the same family who had actually hosted my brother Kevin when Kevin turned down the professional contract at Oxford. So I went to the same family that my brother Kevin went to, and stayed with them throughout the Easter holidays, and then I started school at the start of the next term, at the summer term, and it was horrific. It was 2 of the worst days of my life. Honestly, it was a massive school compared to what I'd been in Guernsey, first of all. But literally not a single other student at the school spoke to me in the 2 days I was there. I was like a leper walking around that
any reason?
School. They just weren't very welcoming.
You're quite
friendly.
tall. You're quite tall, aren't you?
Yeah, but I wasn't really back then.
Oh really?
No, I wasn't at 14. I'm 6 foot, just over 6 foot now, but I wasn't at 14. I grew a lot between the age of kind of 15 and 16.
So it wasn't an intimidating thing?
So no, definitely not an intimidating thing. I don't know. It's just, and so I hated it, and I couldn't take it. So I just went, no, I've had enough. I want to go back to Guernsey.
Aye.
So I went back to finish my schooling in Guernsey, but I knew that Southampton had shown an interest and that they'd offered me a trial. So I had my trial at Southampton, and after a week's trial, they signed me straight away as a schoolboy. But they let me finish my schooling in Guernsey, and then I just came over to Southampton for the holidays.
In regards to positions, was it always where you played at centre, attacking midfield? Is that
so
correct?
I was as a kid growing up, I was always centre midfield for my school team and my club team. So I played centre midfield the whole time. And funny enough, the game that I got spotted in by the Southampton scout, I was actually playing out of position. I was being played on the right wing by my coach.
Did you have the pace for it?
Yeah, I did it those
Did
days.
you?
Yeah, I was quite quick as a teenager. I had a bit of pace. So Southampton saw me in this game and thought that I was a right winger. It was like the first time I'd ever played right wing. So when they invited me over for a trial, when they played the matches, they stuck me out in the right wing. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I can play there. I was like just a kid. I was just happy to be there and have a shot at it. So I just gave them my best shot on the right wing, and they signed me up. And I finished my schooling in Guernsey, got offered an apprenticeship, or the youth training scheme as it was back then in 1985, and that was it really. And so I kind of got off to quite a good start in the Southampton youth team, although I missed a penalty in my first ever competitive game for Southampton's youth team.
Does that count?
No.
Is 2 missed?
that wasn't a professional.
So, okay.
But I started scoring goals pretty quick, and I ended up that season scoring like 50 odd goals.
Oh really?
So yeah,
Top goal scorer then.
Yeah, and I knew that kind of I was on my way then.
Were they always long rangers?
Not really back in those days, actually, because I, as I said, I was quite quick, and I got into the box quite a lot, and so it wasn't. I didn't really get a reputation for scoring long distance goals until kind of almost in my mid-20s, really.
Why did nobody call you the juggling king? Because you were always very good with that kind of keep you uppy.
Yeah.
Right, you're very good at that.
Yeah.
And your goals were always. I always seen you. I'm not going to lie to you, right? I was brought up Manchester United and a certain team in Glasgow that I don't mention because I'll lose half of Glasgow, right? But I remember when Sky Sports was playing, I just watched Man U all the time. And the only reason I knew who you were is because I think it was every Saturday or Sunday they showed the highlights, right? And it was always this guy, and it was always top 10 goal of the month. And it was always this guy, Matt Tissier. Here he is, another absolute screamer, half volley outside the box. So that's how I got to kind of know who you were. And I was like, they were the kind of goals I liked to see. I didn't like to see these kind of.
You don't like the tap-ins. You don't like the Gary Lineker tap-ins, do you?
Nah, I prefer. I was always taught as a boy, you see goal, you hit it.
Yeah.
You know, if
absolutely.
you get opportunity. And most of my goals, were outside the box, I preferred that. Even though I was terrible in the air.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a lot more satisfaction, I think, to scoring spectacular goals than there is to those little tap-ins. I know they both count as one, but if you score a goal and you kind of know that, yeah, there's not many people that could have done that. That's a pretty special feeling.
So you signed for Southampton when professionally?
On my 18th birthday, 1986.
And the Premiership wasn't as big then.
It wasn't. Premier League wasn't in place then. It was the first division back then.
Out of curiosity, you like talking about wages. What was the wages back then?
I've been quite open about talking about my wages. So when I signed on the YTS scheme at Southampton, I was on £26 a week for the first season. That rose to £35 a week for the second season. We also had a win bonus in the youth team where we would get £4 for a win, £2 for a draw. And then I signed my first professional contract in October '86 on my 18th birthday. It was a 2-year contract. The first year was £100 a week, and the second year was £120 a week.
Who was the top player then? What was he on?
Probably would have been Peter Shilton.
We all know Shilton. How much was he on?
I would only be guessing because I didn't have a clue. I never really spoke to any other players about what wages they earned. I couldn't tell you any of the players that I played with. I couldn't tell you what wages they earned. It was just something you just didn't speak about.
It's probably, now footballers, man, that must be a wee bit of digging the rib to you with what they're on now. Footballers, huh?
No, it's just that's the way the times have gone. You can't, I had a fantastic time. I earned great wages. The way I look at it is, I earned more money from football than George Best did.
Aye. So when you eventually got up to that kind of level, what was your top wage weekly?
My top wage at Southampton was £3,950 a week.
Seriously?
Yep.
I'm pretty shocked.
Hey.
Back what year would that be?
2001. That was.
That was when it went. That was the highest wage you got a week.
Yep.
For a footballer at your level.
Yeah, there were bonuses on top of that. So I also had an appearance. You got appearance money for every time you played. You got a bonus as well. And the last kind of maybe 5 or 6 years, I had a goal bonus as well. But the last few years, I didn't score that many goals, so it wasn't really.
But even when the Premiership went up to that level, I thought, because that's what I'm saying. I phoned a guy spoke to me earlier on, and I was saying, I'm doing an interview with Matt Tissier, and he said, probably one of the best midfielders that England never played, and he said, one of the greatest midfielders of all, not all, I don't know, mate. You want to take that? You want to take that belt?
I wouldn't go that far. I was pretty good. I know what my level is. I knew what I could do. But
You would compare yourself. Who would you compare yourself to?
Who would I compare myself to? I guess kind of around the time that I played, I would say I would compare myself to like a Cantona type player.
I was going to say Scholes.
Would you? Nah.
No?
No, I don't. No, Scholes was very different to me. He was a lot more.
He was one for hitting balls outside.
Yeah, he was a lot more tidy with his passing, and he was, in that combative area of the park, and I didn't really get involved in I didn't like tackling and all that kind of stuff. I didn't like. That wasn't my game. He didn't mind having a tackle, even though he was bad at it.
I suppose you and Cantona are kind of the same, because Cantona was very juggly.
He was very juggly. Yeah.
Very juggly with a ball.
Yeah, and he had that self-confidence on the pitch. He had that arrogance. He knew he was good.
What was it like playing against Man U in those days?
Hard. Yeah, it was hard, especially away from home. We had a few good results down at the Dell, but didn't have a lot of success at Old Trafford in my career, I think.
Well, they just dominated, mate.
Yeah.
They completely dominated.
I think I had a 3-3 draw there. I'm not sure I even won a game. Maybe won one game in my whole career at Anfield. At Old Trafford.
Old Trafford.
But it was the same at Anfield. I think we only won one at Anfield as well.
Were they the hardest team, do you reckon, you played against?
Yeah, Arsenal were up there as well when Vieira was in midfield. The Bergkamp and Henry up front. That was a pretty awesome partnership. But yeah, I think over the course of my career, Man United, dominated the vast majority of it.
Yeah, because when I watched it, it was all Man U. Chelsea, because Gary Pallister, Schmeichel.
I mean, Ryan Giggs used to tear us apart at Old Trafford every time we played.
I've got no respect for Ryan Giggs, by the way. Absolutely, after what he done to his brother, no chance.
No, absolutely right.
Absolutely disgusting what that man done. But
yeah.
But anyway, so obviously, I mean, you've done all these podcasts so many times, and everybody just knows your career in and out. I mean, there's certain things I want to kind of touch on in regards to football as well, because there's a lot of controversial stuff going on right now. And I was saying to you before, can we get a story out that you'd never really tell? And you said about referees, and I'm really interested in this one.
So I always kind of ask people, do they ever think that referees cheat, right? And most fans will go, yeah, I reckon they do. We've all been sat in the stand watching a referee give some dodgy decisions and going, oh, he's cheating. Well, this is a true story that happened to me in my career. So we played West Ham in the semi-final of the Southern region of the Zenith Data Systems Cup, right? So that was the cup when we were like no English teams were allowed in Europe. They put an extra cup competition in to like fill the fixtures basically. So we got to the semi-final of the Southern region against West Ham. We're playing at the Dell. It's like the second week of January. It was freezing, and the pitch was only just about playable. Like so it was just starting to get a bit hard, a bit frosty. So in that competition, you had to get a result on the night. So there was no extra time. There was no replays. You just went extra time and penalties. So the game stood at 1-1 with about 10 minutes to go. And so extra time was looming, right? The pitch, as the evening was getting on, it was getting colder. Pitch was getting harder and harder. It was getting quite dangerous to play on. People started slipping. So the referee that day was a guy called David Axel. I'll never forget him. He had silver hair, silver tash. He was crap. And he jogged past me, right, with about 10 minutes to go, 1-1. And he went, come on, Matt, do something. We don't want this going to extra time, right? That's the referee.
We don't
want this going to extra time. The referee is telling me that, right? So I've gone, oh, right, okay.
You got a better one,
So the next time I get the ball just outside West Ham's penalty area, I just get myself into the penalty area. Their fullback, Tim Breaker, comes alongside me, and he literally just put his hand on my shoulder. Well, I've gone straight down like a sack of potatoes. David Axel couldn't get his whistle in his mouth quick enough to give me a penalty. Honestly, 5 minutes to go. I step up, take the penalty, 2-1, game over, no extra time. Cheating git.
I'm not. So did you do? So that's a good question, right? The whole VAR thing, right? That's came into play, right?
Yep.
I'm a fan of it. I'm very mixed reviews on it. Did you do the tactical penalty? Did you do the tactical like go down in the box if somebody touched you? Because back in those days, there was none of that about. Everybody was quite hard, I think.
No, I don't think. I never kind of went down if nobody had touched me. Mm-hmm. There would have been a couple of occasions that I can remember where the contact was probably a bit minimal, and you kind of just fall over hoping that the ref might give a penalty, not really expecting anything. Sometimes they did. Sometimes, most of the time, they didn't. So there were a couple of occasions where you would be clever as a footballer where I knew that the player was coming in to tackle. And I knew he was going for the ball, but I knew if I could just nick the ball out of the way and leave my foot there, he's going to kick my foot. So that's what he did. You just kind of get the ball out of the way, leave your foot there and let him kick you. And the referees will give you a penalty for that all day long.
What's your thoughts on VAR?
I think I think it could be useful if it was in the right hands.
What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
I mean by that the same people that are making the mistakes on the field are the same people that are reviewing the footage off the field, and there needs to be a separation between the two bodies. So there needs to be a group of referees that referee on the pitch, and there needs to be a completely separate group who aren't mates with the groups that are on the pitch. They need to be the ones reviewing the evidence, so there's no conflict of interest. Because if you've got a mate, your mate is in the VAR room and you're the one on the pitch, your mate ain't going to want to embarrass you as a referee. So he's gonna stick up for you whenever he possibly can, and that shouldn't be the case. Those people in the VAR room should have no conflicts of interest there with the bloke out on the pitch itself, and then they can make their decisions objectively without thinking, oh, it's my mate on the pitch, what should I do? That's my opinion. I also think they should have an ex-player in the VAR room as well to help with certain situations that perhaps the referees who haven't been in that situation don't really fully understand.
Because the big one just now is the Liverpool game.
Yep.
The other day.
Yep.
You know,
I mean, that's just plain...
I don't understand how they can get it wrong now. The whole point in bringing it in was to... Do you know what I mean? It's ridiculous.
So, for me, what should have happened there is as soon as they'd written... Well, firstly, the mistake shouldn't happen in the first place. So their protocols that were in place were rubbish because it leads to confusion. So instead of... They go through their protocols and then at the end they go, check complete.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Now, check complete can be ambiguous, as you saw, because does that mean check is complete, so carry on with what you were, or the check is complete, yes, he is offside, which is what you were checking for. Mm-hmm. So it can be a little bit ambiguous. So when they're checking for an offside goal like that, they shouldn't say at the end, their last sentence should not be check complete. Their last sentence should be, he's offside, he's not offside. And then there can be no ambiguity. The referee knows exactly what's up. And then you don't get the situation where they restart play and then they go, oh, no, that's not what we meant. That's not what we meant. But having made the mistake, once they realise the mistake, they should have... I know they go, oh, well, we're going to hide behind our protocols because you can't stop play once it's started. But they've made such a monumental cock-up that somebody in that room should have taken responsibility, shouted down to the referee and gone, stop the game. Stop the game so there can be no other incident that can get in the way. Stop the game. We've made a mistake. You've got to give a goal. Deal with the consequences after the game, because there will be some consequences, because Spurs would have gone, oh no, but you broke the protocols because you're not allowed to restart the game. But at the end of the day, the decision was correct. And I think that would have been less controversial than doing what they did.
So do you think keep it or get rid of it? Try and get close to the mic, mate, because it's...
I think I would keep it, but I would change it a little bit.
Just change
the protocols,
so
change the dynamic of the people that are in the VAR room.
Yeah, because they've just recently introduced it to Scottish football.
And
there's been some right dodgy decisions made, to be honest with you, and I don't really... I just don't understand. You brought it in, but I think it was last season, there was just some... There's a team I support, but I try and not tell anybody, but because I'll lose half of Glasgow, but that's not what, you know, it shouldn't be like that in regards to this, but there was just some decisions that were made, and I'm just like, how can you still be making these mistakes when this thing is in place? What's your thoughts on Scottish football, by the way?
I don't really know, to be honest. I don't watch a lot of Scottish football.
Shocking, by the way. One of the biggest derby in the world, mate.
To be honest, I have been, and I would love actually to go. Before I depart this planet, I do.
Have you never been to a Celtic Rangers game?
So
oh man,
I want to go to an Old Firm game.
Right, let's sort it out. If anybody's listening, get Matt Tissier up to Scotland. We'll get him a Celtic Rangers ticket, man.
I have been offered, so I will get up there and watch one of those games, because it does. Well, I mean, I've watched them on the television.
The problem is, I don't know if it's changed lately, right? But again, certain teams. What happened was, it used to be 20,000 seats would be allocated.
Yeah.
But what they've done now is...
It's not the same, is it?
No, they've allocated like 200 or 500. So the best one would be a Hampden game, and you're getting 50-50.
Yeah.
You know, and I think...
Yeah, it's a good point.
It was actually a tactic to stop, because there's a big Celtic Rangers thing, 9 in a row, which is...
I know about that,
you know. Yeah. And it was a tactic to get the fans down when the other team were playing, and that way there's more chance of them losing. And, you know, it's just one of the things. And I just think now, right, okay, that's gone. Can we just get the fans back? But this is the thing. See, Scottish football, it's not as good as the Premiership. I think we can all agree with that, right?
Yeah.
I think I was hoping that one of the big teams would get into the Premiership, because there's a lot of talk about that a few years ago. What's your thoughts on that?
I think it would be an interesting experiment, yeah.
Because they've got Swansea and Cardiff in the Premiership. So
they have.
And I think by getting these teams into...
But do you think by having Celtic and Rangers in the Premier League, would that not diminish from the domestic league, from the Scottish domestic? Would that not
No,
completely obliterate the?
I think it would be 10 times better because it would give the other teams something
Do
to
you
play
think there
for.
would be more interest?
What you mean? Like,
Do you think we'd see an increase in crowds for the other teams?
I think maybe you would, because it means they get a more chance of winning.
Yeah.
So it would give
Yeah,
them
I
a
see
bit.
that.
It would give them a bit more because like they know that every season they're playing for third and fourth.
Yeah.
Like there's no two ways about it. They're playing for a Europa League game or whatever, and I think it would give them a better opportunity, mate.
How do you think Rangers or Celtic would fare in a Premier League?
I think my honest opinion is I don't think we would. I think for the first 2-3 seasons, I think we would be fighting for mid-table, bottom end of the table. I think we could do it, but not with the money. And I think as time went on, I think as the teams got the money, my honest opinion is I think we'd be up there on that, because you look at Pat Evra, for example. He said was one of the best atmospheres he ever came across was he said the best place he had never walk alone is at Celtic Park, and he says that Europa League games at Ibrox, people will tell you it's probably one of the most intimidating places to go to. It is really, the Scottish crowd is really, really, and I think if we had the money, I do think that we would do really well, and I think it would do well for football as well, because I've watched the Man City games and that, and if I'm being honest with you, the crowd atmosphere is not the greatest.
I'd agree with that. Yeah,
so
I'd agree.
I think it'd be interesting for them to. I'd like it to happen, in my opinion.
I think it'd be a good experiment. Yeah.
What was your thoughts on the whole when the big league? Remember they were going to do that Super League thing?
Yeah, European Super League.
What did you think of that?
I thought that was born out of pure greed. I think there were a couple of big European clubs who were struggling for money, and it was a way to try and get them out of the debt that they were in. I don't think it needed it, to be honest. I think the league system that we've got at the moment, I think is fine. The Champions League is, pretty good competition. So I didn't really see the need to disrupt things at the moment. That's not to say it won't happen in the future, because it might well do, and it might well turn out to be really good. And the other clubs, like you said about Rangers and Celtic, perhaps not being in the league, if they do that, and Liverpool and Man City aren't in the domestic league, it might.
The funny thing is, everybody was jumping in the back, but I think Charlie Nicholas said and he went like Celtic and he just would jump at that opportunity, because we were all looking for the Premiership.
Yeah.
In regards to the Saudi football going on just now, what's your thoughts on all these players going over and playing at Saudi Arabia?
Obviously, those players that are going over there are not really going there to forward their career at all. They're going there for monetary reasons, and I'm not going to criticise somebody. I didn't play football for money. I played because I love the game. Don't get me wrong, we earned a good wage. But if somebody else has a different reason to play football, that's up to them. If playing football is about accumulating as much money as they possibly can to see their family's future sorted out for perhaps generations to come, then you can't blame them for it. But it's not a decision that's made on the basis of wanting to improve their football.
Yeah, there was a young guy who played for Celtic, and I don't know if he's still there, but he gets signed, and then Benzema, and who else was it? The guy, I think it was, I don't want to say Kanté. No, who was it? One of the other ones went over for one of the big teams as well, so he's playing with Benzema and that, and he's a fantastic player. His name's Jota. I don't know if you've seen him.
Portuguese lad, yeah.
So he went over there, but again, like, one thing I get told in football is you're only one bad tackle away for your career ending.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I can understand it for that point of view.
I'm not going to criticise anybody for wanting to go and earn themselves shed loads of money. That's entirely up to them.
So you touched on it there regarding your career, and you stayed with Southampton, loyal, absolutely loyal. I'd imagine other teams did come in for you.
Yeah, I had a chance to join Spurs when I was 21, Chelsea when I was 26.
Were they offering bigger money?
Liverpool, Spurs kind of I spoke to Spurs. They were the only team I spoke to, and discussed contracts and all that stuff. And the money that was on offer from Spurs, I actually ended up signing a new contract at Southampton, which was pretty much almost the same as what Spurs were offering me. So the money, the big money differences weren't really there in the late 80s, early 90s. It took a few years for that to really start widening the gap in terms of the wages. So when I turned Chelsea down in 95, I didn't speak to them, but at the time, I think at Southampton I was earning maybe, I don't know, 1,500, $2,000 a week or something. And I probably, if I'd have gone to Chelsea, it probably would have been, I don't know, 10, 15 grand a week. So, it's big. It's a huge difference.
That's a huge difference for you, three grand a week.
Yeah. But, even in those levels, it's quite big. But when you compare that to what's happening now, I mean, if I was playing for Southampton now, and let's say, for example, the top earner at Southampton, I don't know, roughly 90 grand a week.
Seriously? At Southampton?
The top earner, I would say, is probably around that area somewhere.
I mean, I suppose that's not really that surprising to me, Bill.
But if I was at Southampton and I was earning, say, 80 grand a week now, and I was scoring the amount of goals that I was scoring back in the 90s, and somebody came in for me, the difference between 80 grand a week and what I would get offered at another club would be astronomical. So you would be looking at another 100 grand a week on top of that.
If Matt Tissier was playing in the Premiership right now, what do you think your wage would be at? Do you think it would be about £90,000 a week?
What, if I was at Southampton?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably would be around that, yeah.
Yeah. That must sting a wee bit, Matt, knowing. Do you think you could hack it now? A young Matt Tissier in his prime, do you think you could hack it in the Premiership right now?
Oh, yeah.
I definitely know you could.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's two things that would be in my favour. I mean, the pace of the game obviously would not be in my favour. But the two things that would is that players aren't allowed to get away with tackles that they would have done 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So
Agreed.
That would have been a lot easier for players like me to play. And the second bit is that the pitches that they play on are like absolute carpets.
Yeah.
To dribble on those kind of pitches would be so much easier than trying to dribble on the pitches that I was trying to do it on.
Yeah. Bump it wasn't exactly.
Yeah, I mean, in the middle of winter, you didn't really attempt too many dribbles because the bumps.
Well, you'd be used to it because if we're bumping about and you'd be juggling the ball anyway. So.
Yeah. So there was, I mean, I think I had enough ability to play in any area of football, if I'm honest.
That would have been interesting. It'd be interesting to see, mate, if you, do you know what I mean? Like, see in regards to diet and all that back in those days, right?
No.
Because some people said the problem is with Matt is he just wasn't fit enough. And then I seen an interview with you saying I'm actually one of the hardest working. You were actually said that you were actually one of the hardest in training. Are you just talking absolute nonsense?
No,
then?
if there was a ball involved in training, I would run all day. The minute that you took the ball away,
not interested.
I wasn't interested.
Right.
I just didn't have the mindset for that. And that's why the managers that got the best out of me were the ones that got me working with the football.
So so back then, the diet and stuff, was it just do what you want?
It was pretty much do what you want, but we used to get weighed every Monday and every Friday.
Right.
And so as long as you weren't, putting on weight, then it didn't really matter what your makeup of your body was. You could have like 30% body fat, but as long as your weight was okay,
so it could have been muscle.
Yeah, so nobody cared.
That's ridiculous.
So,
that's crazy.
And the sports science only really started coming in right at the back end of my career.
Because one of the
boys,
boys,
too late for me by then.
One of the boys who's injured, Adam Rowan. I don't know if you know Adam.
I know Adam.
I interviewed him. That's what he done. Sports science.
Yeah.
And he worked with the PGA.
Yeah.
You know that?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I spoke to Adam on my podcast.
Aye,
I did the
great guy.
stuff, yeah.
Heart bleeds for him. So the diet back then, just do what you want, kind of.
It was pretty much, it was only kind of maybe halfway through my career we started eating at the training ground, lunch after training. They put on lunch for us to make sure we.
What was for lunch?
I mean, it was kind
pie and beans or something.
Pasta and salads and chicken and all that stuff. So
aye.
I used to have a bit of that, and then I used to go back home and have some more.
Well, I'm going to end up getting into the part we really need to get into, because
Go for it.
I could talk to you all day about your past, and I want to talk about players that you've played with and stuff. Who would you say was the best player? So in your opinion, right, who was the best player that you've ever seen? I played against.
The best player I've played against would either be Thierry Henry or Roberto Baggio. One of those two, and they were very different players, but they were, I think, for me, the two best that I watched on a pitch.
Right.
In terms of like overall in my life, it would be Maradona or Messi for me.
I was going to ask you the question. Maradona or Pele? You've answered that one.
Well, I'm not really old enough to have remembered Pele play, whereas I did see a fair bit of Maradona in World Cups and things, but I didn't really see Pele because I saw kind of a little bit of the back end of his career when he was in America.
Yeah.
But not in
I
his
think
prime.
the reason why nobody really gives Pele the credit he deserves is because they said he didn't play against competition, if that makes sense.
Yeah, he just stayed in Brazil, didn't he?
Yeah, and but obviously winning a World Cup with him. And obviously I was going to ask you a question, Messi or Ronaldo.
I just answered that.
Yeah, and I'm the exact same Messi all day, mate. Messi.
I say that because that's not to denigrate anything that Cristiano Ronaldo has done, because I think that boy has got every ounce out of his body and out of the ability that he had. He's been phenomenal. He's looked after himself absolutely superbly. But I think from a purist point of view, for me, Lionel Messi was more naturally gifted.
Oh, absolutely.
Than Cristiano, and that's why I would have paid money to go and watch Messi.
I think the thing is with Ronaldo, well, in my opinion, the greatest player for me, right, that I've seen play is Ronaldinho. Now that guy there, absolute. And you said in one of your interviews, you like to be an entertainer.
Yeah.
And for me, Ronaldinho was nothing but a complete and utter entertainer. I remember he played a certain team. You're back all right there?
Yep.
You're right?
Yep. Just moving my pillow.
I just remember watching him, and I remember the fans behind me, and they're all sitting there. And this was one of the best Barcelona teams I'd ever seen. You had Messi, Ronaldinho, you had all the greats, and I'm just sitting going, how can we even complain about this? We're literally watching proper, the best of the best football, and my opinion, Ronaldinho.
The other Ronaldo was actually pretty good as well.
Yeah.
There's been a few down the years. We've been lucky.
I kind of see that Ronaldo similar to Mbappe. I think the two of them are quite similar. That kind of just drive, get to the goal and score.
Yeah, I see that. Haaland's going to be some player as well.
Oh, Haaland's incredible, man. That's incredible, that guy.
Yeah.
But I was going to say to you as well, we spoke about commentary. We went out for a dinner a few weeks ago, and I said to you, in my opinion, one of the best commentators that no longer is at Sky Sports anymore is Andy Gray. What's your opinion on that?
I don't think anybody's come close to being as good as a co-commentator as Andy Gray was.
Nah,
I don't think anyone's come close.
What do you think of the whole situation? I mean, it was out of order, let's be honest here, but I mean, we've all been in the pub, haven't we?
Yeah, we've all been in the pub, and we've all said things that have probably come across as sexist or misogynist or whatever, and most of the time it's tongue in cheek, and sometimes it gets taken the wrong way, and you pay the price for it. And I thought, for me, it was something that didn't need to have happened unless somebody had some kind of vendetta against them.
That was when women were coming into football. Is that right? That's pretty much when.
It was the first woman linesman. Yeah.
Linesman, yeah. I mean, it was like I said.
It was crass, and it was just stuff that blokes.
But
they're messing about.
I just think the mainstream media just totally ruined them, and I think, and you listen to the old 90s, Andy Gray, and the way he was just phenomenal at what he'd done, and I think after that it's been hard to find another commentator.
Yeah, I agree with you. I tried it and I was rubbish at it.
Did you try the commentating?
Co-commentating was hard, man. It was a hard job.
How do you? That's a good. So how do you keep up with the names and all that? I couldn't do that.
That was the easy bit. I was good with names and things, and I because you immersed yourself in the game, you knew all the players. That bit wasn't the problem. It was the concentration to watch a game for 90 minutes and try and be on top of everything in terms of tactics that were going on, formation changes during the game and stuff. It was really quite taxing, and then to try to then broadcast that across to people and get it across in a way that people understood. It was a hard job. It's a much harder job than people give it credit for. And I think you're right. Andy nailed it, and I don't think anybody's come close to being as good as him since.
No, definitely. Ali McCoy's is good. I like Ali McCoy's.
Ali's decent. I like listening to Ali. Yeah.
Aye, I like Ali as well. But we'll get into the good stuff. That's a question I wanted to ask you as well. The whole mixing sports of women. So what is your thoughts on women's football?
My thoughts on women's football doesn't really entertain me, if I'm honest. I find it a bit boring, so I tend not to watch it. And whenever you say that, everyone goes, "Oh, terrible, sexist, misogynist." Yeah, but I watched more of the Women's Netball World Cup than I probably did watch more of the Men's Football World Cup, to be honest, because I think there are some sports that are far more entertaining, and I think women's netball is very entertaining. I watch a lot of women's golf. And I just the football side of things I don't think is anywhere near good enough yet to really have the amount of publicity that it gets.
I think for me, I'm the same. I can't get into it. I've tried to watch it. When you're watching England hammer a team 9-0, says a lot. And I mean, just for me, I've tried to get into it. Don't get me wrong. Like you said, women's golf, phenomenal. Women's UFC, I mean, it has gotten better. The women have gotten better at the football. I will say that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they've definitely improved, but it's still.
Yeah, but I mean, they kind of want this equality kind of thing, and they're wanting. I think they were demanding more money and stuff.
I think that was at international level. They were wanting to be paid the same as the men's international team. I can't really get with that idea at the moment. I don't think they generate the same amount of money that the men's international game does. And I guess it's kind of a commercial decision. It should be based on that.
Yeah, one of the reasons I bring this up is I play a game called FIFA. Right, do you know what?
Yeah, I know.
Well, it's changed to EA now, right? And every year there's a thing called Ultimate Team, right? And I'm sitting there like, right, okay, so I'm playing Ultimate Team. You got all your packs. And one thing I want to know, FIFA or EA, why have you not got Matt Tissier down as a legend, by the way?
Do you want me to tell you why not?
Oh, do you know? Seriously? You know why you're not actually in the legends? Oh, fucking tell me, Matt.
So, here's a good story for you that I don't tell this on...
Seriously, so you know why you're not actually on FIFA as a legend card? That's unreal.
Yes, so about 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. So it was after I lost my job at Sky. And my agent approached me and said, FIFA are doing a Legends thing on their next game. They want to use your image. Here's a 6-year deal, paying X amount of money a year for 6 years.
And much was the money.
All you'd have to do, it was about, what was it? It wasn't a huge amount. It was like 17 or 18 grand a year.
Still a decent amount of money for just having your name and face.
Yeah. So, and for that, they would be able to use my image, and I would have to commit to doing, I think it was like 3 or 4 promotional events for the game throughout the year. Now, so I said to my agent, for the last 3 years, I've just been slagging FIFA off on my Twitter feed. I said, so I'm going to look like a bit of a hypocrite if I turn up on the FIFA game. I said, so, and so my agent went, well, the game is actually EA Sports. So I said, well, is it EA Sports that will be paying me? And they said, yeah, I think it'll be EA Sports that will pay you. I said, okay, so if that's the case, I said, I'll sign the contract, but I'm not going to do any promotion for FIFA, right? If EA Sports want to pay me, that's fine, but I ain't promoting anything that's got to do with FIFA.
Seriously?
Right, so I said that to my agent, and then he came back a couple of weeks later and went, "Yeah, deal's off the table."
Why do you hate FIFA so much? Just because of
'Cause
the
they're
corruption?
corrupt. Yeah.
Just the corruption on it?
Yeah, absolutely. They've got all sorts of corruption going on there. There's loads of them been.
Money laundering and stuff?
Oh, it's just. I mean, so many of that committee that give the World Cup to Qatar and the World Cup to Russia, they're all having backhanders. Load of them have been done for it already. It's just shocking organisation.
I mean, they're all getting booed anyway.
Sepp Blatter is just. Ugh. So that's why I'm not on
That's incredible.
any FIFA
There
games.
we go. There you go. So because you wouldn't promote FIFA.
Yeah.
So as I was going back onto the game,
So that's
right?
another 90 grand to cost myself.
You and Mrs. must be fucking
Standing
raging.
up for your beliefs is very costly. You know?
If that was my missus, she'd be like, shut the fuck up and just do the deal, man. Aye. That's incredible. So the reason I was talking about FIFA is obviously the men and women thing. We've seen daft things lately. Men, I don't know, can you call them transgenders or whatever, fighting against women. They're transitioning. Now, I play Ultimate Team every year. Now they've started doing this Ultimate Team thing, and now the men and women are on the pitch in the same, right? Again, I don't have any issues with it, but go and make your own fucking FIFA, man. Do you know what I mean? See how good that goes. And I'm just like you get scorecards. I don't know if you've played it or whatever.
I haven't played it for a long
You've got
time.
a 90 Messi, and then you've got some lassie, I don't know, called Rachel, who's 90 as well. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? We've got a 90 Messi and we've got a card here. It just doesn't make sense to me. And I'm thinking to myself, are they trying to push this in the near future for men?
Predictive programming is what.
Do you think that's a possibility?
predictive programming? Is it a possibility that men's and women's football will merge and we'll have? Blimey, I'm not sure anything would surprise me anymore. The way that things are going. I mean, I'd like to think not.
There's so many complications with that.
Yeah, there is.
Right, so you're going for a challenge. For example, you're going 50-50 with a ball.
Yeah, I don't think that would come into it. I mean, who knows what their plans are?
No,
I'd hope not.
Imagine you go up for a corner, your hand slips somewhere. You know what I mean? Then you're getting
all of a sudden you're up in court for
yeah,
sexually molesting somebody on a football pitch.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many and I said that as soon as I seen it, I was like, is this what they're going for? Is this what the next? But anyway, we could talk all day in regards to football and that. Retirement, mate.
Yep.
When did you decide that I'm hanging up the boots and that's me done, dusted with this?
Yeah, so the 2001-2002 season, first season we were at our new stadium at St Mary's, was a really frustrating one for me injury-wise. I'd kind of turned 33. I had a load of calf strains, kept trying to come back and kept getting injured. And it was in about March, I think, 2002, playing in a reserve game at St Mary's, and the calf went again. And I was just like, this is just doing my head in. I've had enough. And so I came off the pitch after about 25 minutes that game, and I realised then that was it. That was going to be me. My contract was up at the end of the season.
Tears.
Oh, I went into the medical room at St Mary's and bawled my eyes out. I was just sat in there on my own, and I knew it was that. That was it. Gordon Strachan was really good, actually. Gordon came down. He was manager at the Saints at the time. He was at the game, and he'd kind of seen me come off. He'd seen I was a bit upset, and he came down in the medical room, and he just said, I just looked at him. I went, Gaffer, I said, I can't do it anymore. I said, at the end of this season, that's me done. I've had enough. And he just went, Tiz, he said, I respect your decision. He said, and you've got to know that everything that you've done, he said, it's been recorded. It's on tape. You can show your kids, your grandkids, what you did in your career. He said, you should be very proud of it. And that kind of cheered me up a little bit, and bless him for doing that.
No, show your grandkids what you're doing now. Going down in history on the right side. I mean, must have been scunnered, mate. You must have been absolutely just, but so when you became retired, were you kind of thinking, what the hell am I going to do now? That's the other thing. You're married now, aren't you?
I am married, yes.
Same wife or different?
I wasn't married when I retired.
Okay.
So I got divorced in 1998. I remarried in 2008. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, when I retired, I wasn't married at all. So didn't really know what I was going to do, to be honest. I'd had a nice testimonial match. It was my last game of the season, so I had a nice little pot there that meant I didn't have to go out and immediately seek work. But it wasn't ever going to be enough to last me for the rest of my life. So I knew at some point I'd have to find a job, and so I kind of drifted into the media, I guess, and yeah, that's where I stayed for.
In the pundit.
18 years as a pundit, yeah.
Another quick question regarding football. Did you ever go off the rails? Did the fame get to your head? Did you go down the drink, alcohol, the drugs, anything like that?
No, I certainly never touched any drugs in my life, and I wasn't really a drinker. I did, after I got divorced, I probably started drinking a bit more. I said, but difficult for me to have a problem with drink when all I drink is Malibu and Coke. So yeah, I didn't.
Same as a producer over there, by the way.
I didn't have any issues with that, thankfully. But yeah, I mean, I went out towards the back end of my career. I went out drinking a little bit more, but never broke any kind of rules in terms of drinking 48 hours before a game and all that kind of stuff. So I didn't really go off the rails.
You look at players like Gaza, man. Absolute. If I'm being honest with you, Gaza was a phenomenal player. They said this guy, he defies the laws of science, if you call it. This man shouldn't be able to kick a ball the way he is. Did you play along Gaza or anything?
Yeah, I was in a few England squads with Gaza.
What was you like, just madness?
He'd come down and played my testimonial, actually, bless him. Yeah, he was just a fruitcake. He was just he could never sit still. He was always doing something that was winding someone up. And but on a football pitch, wow.
Oh, that goal he scored against Scotland. That goal he scored against Scotland.
Yeah.
So that's a good question regarding England. Do you think you would have got... How many times did you play for... You never got any main...
I never went to a tournament. I played in a couple of World Cup qualifiers and I played in half a dozen friendlies.
You're a bit disappointed at that one?
Yeah, a little bit disappointed not to get a few more chances, really. I only started 3 games. One of them was abandoned after 27 minutes because of crowd trouble in Dublin back in 95. So it was kind of really 2 games that I started, and those 2 games were like 3 years apart. Mm-hmm. So yeah, a bit disappointed not to get a few more chances.
Aye, I don't understand why you never get in that team, mate. I think the best...
Gaza was probably one of the reasons why, because he was in such good form, similar time to when I was, and
he's just a phenomenal player. That goal against Scotland again, just chipping the keeper. Chipping Hendry, wasn't it?
Hendry, yeah.
And then that was absolute cracker. So obviously, you've retired, and you've decided the punditry side of things. So is that just doing the Sky Sports thing at the weekend?
For the first 2 or 3 years, I was kind of doing a bit of work for everyone. I wasn't under contract at Sky. I was doing a little bit for BBC, a little bit for ITV. As and when, really. And then I did a bit for Sky, filling in for, George Best and Frank McClintock if they were on holiday or whatever at Soccer Saturday. So I did a little bit for them. And then Rodney Marsh got sacked in 2005, January 2005, which meant that there was a kind of a spot on Soccer Saturday, a regular spot on Soccer Saturday, and they asked me if I wanted to do it. So it kind of went from there. That's when I got my first contract. Oh, it was great fun. Sitting on the television every Saturday afternoon for 6 hours just talking about and watching football is just,
to get paid,
especially when that's all my life's really been about is sport, and now I'm getting paid to watch it and just chat about it. It was great.
Any balls up? Did you do any balls ups on the telly?
Oh yeah, there was always balls ups.
Any that stuck out?
I think one of my very early shows, I actually it probably nearly got me the sack actually, because it was very unprofessional. So I was watching, I think it was Man United against Aston Villa. That was my game. But on the screen next to me was a Southampton game, right? Because we weren't allowed to watch our own teams. But of course, I could see the telly next to me. So I was like dreaming a little bit and just watching Southampton and thinking, oh, like that.
Mind your mic, mate.
Oh yeah. And so I was kind of watching the telly next to me, and wasn't really concentrating on my game, and all of a sudden Jeff Stelling went, "And Matt, what's happened at Old Trafford?" And I looked back at my screen, and I was like, "Oh!" Like the ball is in the back of Man United's net, and I haven't got a clue how it got there. Not a clue. I don't even know who scored or anything. And I'm thinking, oh no, this is my only job all afternoon, is to know who scored the goal and to describe it. And I ain't got a clue, right? And I was like, oh, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna, like, all these things live on television going through my head. I'm thinking, oh my God, what am I gonna do? And I was like, oh yeah, Aston Villa has scored, Jeff. And I was just about to go, but I don't know who scored it because I was watching that game.
Did you say that?
No, I was just about to, right? And as I was about to say that, the replay came on my television, and I talked over the replay like I knew everything that was going on. And that bloke who put that replay on at that precise moment probably saved me my job.
I bet he did. What's the one? What's his name? The best one's obviously he's done it. I don't know, Jeff. What's his name?
Cammy.
Cammy. He's hilarious. Yeah. He's absolutely hilarious. So you've been doing that for 18 years, mate.
Yep.
Now we're just about to get into what's really going on. What's really going on? And I'm just
all the shit show.
Yeah, mate. So you've been doing the commentary for over 18 years.
Yep.
Is that correct? So tell me, how did Matt Tissier become Matt Tissier, the conspiracy theorist? Like, what happened in regards to how you get the sack?
Okay, so we've probably got to go back to February of 2020.
So this is one thing I like to ask, and I don't want to jump the gun, right? Sorry. I always like to ask people, before 2018, 2019, right, things were normal, everything was going on. 2020 comes along, Matt. Now, one of the questions I ask everybody is, did you see a pandemic?
No.
You never seen a pandemic?
No.
And everyone I've had on this has said the same thing. Did you see people dropping in the streets?
No.
Did you know anyone that caught COVID, died?
One of my parents' friends died of COVID, and the actual story to that was something in itself. So if I tell you that the guy in question had cancer, was having treatment for cancer, so he was already quite a bit poorly, and he was staying with my parents in Guernsey. He's from the mainland, but he was staying with my parents in Guernsey. My parents live in an annex on the back of my brother's house. They have like a kitchen, a lounge, and one bedroom. They've got 3 rooms. That's what they live in. And so my dad's mate was staying with them, and he tested positive for COVID. Actually, first of all, he was staying with them. He flew back to the mainland to have some tests in Leeds, and then flew back into Guernsey and had caught COVID.
Yeah,
probably in the hospital, on the plane, wherever. Anyway, so he caught COVID and he came back, tested positive, and he started, after a few days, started to struggle with it a little bit, like with his breathing.
How old was he, sorry?
He would have been late 70s.
Okay.
So my parents decided after a few days that he's not coping with this very well. We better call an ambulance. So they called an ambulance out for him, and the ambulance people see he was struggling and thought, we should really probably take him in. But at that point, so I think the time's just gone. I think it was 2 years ago. So at that point, the ambulance, to take anybody to hospital, they had to call the chief medical officer in Guernsey.
Oh, really?
To get permission to take someone into hospital, right? So they ring up the chief medical officer, who hasn't seen the patient, hasn't evaluated the patient, just got the word of the medics, from the paramedics. And the chief medical officer went, no, leave him where he is. Now, bear in mind, he's got COVID. He's in 3 rooms with my mum and dad, who are the same age.
As well?
Yeah. And so they went, No, it's just best to leave him where he is. So I thought, well, that's strange. So they left him there with my parents, who, by the way, in that small confined space, never got COVID while he was there. And a week later, he gets worse. As the days gone by, he's getting worse and worse. They call an ambulance again. And this time they have to take him into hospital. And within a week, he died.
Really?
In hospital.
That's shocking.
So, where was the duty of care there? Well, why not the first time when they can see he's struggling? Why not take him in the hospital then? Why leave him there for a week before?
I've just done a podcast with a ex-paramedic. I think you know him, Matt, NHS 100K.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Ex-paramedic. And I asked him, did you see a pandemic and whatever in 2020? And he said, I seen a hell of a lot of neglect, John. That's shocking, mate.
I think that's right. And I think that all the stuff with the midazolam as well.
Yep.
There's stuff there that just doesn't look right.
Well, so you need to listen to the one with the woman who works as a funeral celebrant, what she's seen in the last 3 years. And I spoke to Matt about the midazolam. Now, I did ask him, I says, the midazolam stuff, and he said they were giving it. He says, but midazolam was always something they gave to patients as an end-of-life care. And if you had COVID, or whatever the hell this thing is, Matt, I don't know what it is. It was going to affect your respiratory, it was going to affect your breathing, the midazolam. So, I mean...
Made no sense.
It didn't, and I'm sorry to hear that. Was that a close family friend?
It was my dad, a childhood friend of my dad's, yeah.
And is that when you just... What were you thinking at that point?
I was livid. I wanted to shout that story from the rooftops, but out of respect, my parents asked me not to say anything at the time, because they didn't feel like it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So that was, I think that was 2021. So kind of before that, in February of 2020.
So that was in 2021 that happened to that gentleman?
I think that was 2021, I think, yeah.
You don't know if he had any vaccines on him or anything? That's a question that needs to be maybe asked, by the way. So, I mean, that's shocking that you left a man with cancer as long as you did, and I don't even know what to say. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Any other?
So you asked about 2020. And did I see a pandemic? Well, what turned me into a conspiracy theorist. So I saw some videos from China where you mentioned about, did I see anyone falling down dead in the streets, like those videos that came out of China. So we never saw that. And I watched those videos and I was like, nah, I'm not having that. That just didn't, something in my gut went, that ain't real. That's not what happens. And I think from that moment, I was like, all of a sudden, everything that's come out of China in recent years, everyone goes, oh, I don't believe it come out of China. It's all propaganda that comes out of there. And yet this video comes out there and everyone goes, whoa, we got to believe everything that's coming out of China now. So that made me go, hang on a minute. I spoke to doctors that was friends of mine who were in my village who had been privy to the data that they'd seen from the Diamond Princess cruise ship. And they told me weeks before we even went into lockdown that this would probably only be of any danger to really old people or people who were already ill.
Yep.
And so I was like, okay, well you've seen all the data and you're saying that. Dodgy videos from China. Then I watched a documentary called The Fall of the Cabal. I don't know if you've watched it, but it's
not watched that.
Fascinating.
Right, okay.
And so there was a load of things all together that made me start questioning the things. So then at that point I thought, well, what's going on here? And I started hearing stories about Bill Gates and what kind of bloke he was, and then you started it all kind of kicked off, and you had all these institutions that were giving out data and things, and Johns Hopkins University in America and all that kind of stuff, and all this propaganda was going on the television. So I was like, I'm going to go and have a look at this Bill and Melinda Gates website, see where they give their money to. And funny enough, all these institutions that were involved in all the reporting of the pandemic and the data and all that stuff, every single one of them had taken millions upon millions of pounds
45%, I believe,
from Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I was like, And then I watched a TED Talk with Bill Gates where he openly admitted that, if they did a really good job with vaccines, they could reduce the population of the planet by 10 or 15%.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, hang on a minute, what did you just say? If we could do a really good job with vaccines and reproduction and something else, reproduction system as well, we can reduce the population of the planet by 10 or 15%. And I was like, he's just openly admitted that, and people are listening to this, and no alarm bells are going off in their heads. I'm like, are you? And so all these little things kind of added up, and I was like, yeah, there's something not right.
Yeah, we'll get into the vaccine soon. When you talk about the depopulation, you're making it hard for me to believe that, not to believe that theory. Okay, and what I mean by that is, I've said this plenty of times before, so I'm sorry for anybody that's heard it before. You're giving out a vaccine which is now known not to be safe, not effective. It would never have been given out, Matt, under FDA normal regulations, because if you go to day 2 of the Scottish COVID inquiry, anybody that's listening, go to day 2, there's a doctor, an epidemiologist, he blows the whistle on it all at the COVID inquiry. And when you're continuing to still promote something which is now known, spike protein to be in breast milk, spike protein being known in men's testicles to stop them reproducing, affecting women's men, it goes on, mate.
I know there's too many things going on for it not to be. You don't have that many coincidences. There can't be that many coincidences. Something not right is going on, and that's we're seeing all around the world in highly vaccinated countries. We're seeing excess deaths amongst those populations, and nobody's talking about it.
And I'll say this, because anyone that's not listened to the podcast with the funeral celebrant at the height of the pandemic, so she covered the west and east of Scotland, east and west. Height of the pandemic, there was an increase in the deaths by 2%. Mainly, like you said, the elderly and people that were really ill and sick. Up to current date, now we're in October now, I interviewed her back in August. Up to present day, August 2023, the death has increased up to 37%.
Wow.
So we've handed out...
Wow.
So this is the height of the pandemic, Matt. And these deaths are unexplained, inconclusive. It is not a conspiracy. This is all... And she said, I said to her, I says, how often were you seeing this? And she said, hardly. And she was in the industry for 10 years. So, again, anyone that's listening, 2% increase in death, height of pandemic, deadly virus. And by the way, I've recently spoken to her again, Matt. It's risen up to 41%, and that's in the space of about 3-4 weeks.
Wow. That's scary.
But anyway, you should watch a thing called Zeitgeist, mate, as well. I watched that years ago, and I don't know why I didn't even just realise what the hell was going on back then. But I'll tell you after. So obviously, you've told me you've not seen a pandemic, and so when it came to your job, mate, how did Matt Le Tissier get the sack?
Good question. Well, I was told that Sky were taking the show in a different direction, that there was no work for me anymore. That was the official line that they gave me. Now, obviously, I had been questioning some of the COVID responses from the government on social media. I'd also been pretty vocal in not wanting to wear the Black Lives Matter badge on Sky, which they, almost forced upon us. I don't think those things went down very well. I was questioning some of the intentions of some of the football clubs who were trying to get the season cancelled in June 2020, because it meant that if the season got cancelled, they wouldn't get relegated and they'd get the Premier League money again the following season. So I was questioning that. And so when they told me that there was no work for me anymore, people said, oh, they didn't sack you, they just didn't renew your contract. That's not true. I had 7 months left on my contract. My contract was terminated. They paid me up my contract. Well, actually, there was 7 months left on my contract. They offered me 6 months. Now, I'd been there for 15 years. You know, why be so petty about, all right, you're going to sack me. I've got 7 months left on my contract. Why are you only going to give me 7? Why are you going to give me 6 months work? Why don't you just pay me my contract? You know what I mean? It was just petty. So when they told me what they sacked me for, I just asked them, has this got anything to do with what I've been posting on social media? And the reply I got was, well, we do have to take into account the reputation of our company. And,
what's the reputation of the company?
Well, my response to that was, you didn't seem too bothered about the reputation of your company when you re-employed Jamie Carragher after he spat at a young girl in the back of his car.
Yeah.
At which point the conversation ended pretty abruptly, and they decided that was enough. They didn't want to hear from me anymore, and we parted ways.
So what did you post on Twitter, mate?
I was questioning the government's response to COVID. I posted about the teams in the relegation zone. Actually, almost actively wanting the season to be ended. So I kind of questioned that. And one of the CEOs of one of the clubs in the relegation zone actually complained about me to Sky. So they rang up Sky and complained about me. So I had a phone call from the boss of Sky Football saying, we've had a complaint about one of your tweets. And I went, oh, right, which one? And I said, have you got it there? He went, yeah. He said, it's one where you said that, isn't it funny how the only clubs that are admitting to having COVID cases are the ones that are in the relegation zone or just above it. And that's all the tweet said. So I said, right. I said, so if that's the tweet, I said, can you tell me what's factually incorrect about that tweet? And he read it again. He went, no, nothing really. And I went, so what are you phoning me for? I said, it's not factually incorrect. I said, so what's the problem? I said, if somebody's got a problem with that, they've obviously got a guilty conscience. So I'm not going to delete it.
Was it like a strike 1, strike 2, strike 3, you're out?
I didn't get any warnings, any formal warnings. I had a phone call asking me about that tweet. And that was about it, really. I didn't wear the Black Lives Matter badge after the first time that they kind of forced it on us just before we were about to go on air. And that was about it, I think.
So you didn't have anything against the Black Lives Matter thing at all? You just didn't?
I didn't like what that organisation stood for. I knew about that organisation. I'd already read up about it. And quite frankly, I wasn't willing to put a badge on to support that organisation. I think the issue... I think the words that they chose, because the Premier League going, well, it's not to do with that organisation. Well, choose different words. Yeah. You know, you could have chosen some different words than Black Lives Matter, which conflates to that organisation. So I wasn't prepared to do that.
Yeah, the Black Lives Matter thing. It was talk about divide and conquer.
No, it's just crazy. I mean, I said to him, look, I said, you know, I've been involved in football a long time. We have the Kick Racism Out campaign.
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with keeping that?
More than happy to wear that badge. I'll wear any other badge that you want me to, just not that badge, because for me, that associates me with that organisation, and I'm not happy to do that. That was
yeah, I mean, the Black Lives Matter thing, I'm not racist in any way whatsoever. What frustrated me a wee bit was during the time of the lockdowns, now I had friends who had people round, and the police booted in their door. They booted in their door. I think there was a few arrests made because they were in the house. And then you had the Black Lives Matter that were all out and about in Scotland. And a lot of people jumped on the bandwagon. And there was a guy I actually trained with in Edinburgh, and he was down there giving it the big one, you know, and I'm kind of like, racism in Scotland, we're not like that. Me personally, I mean, I was just like, this doesn't make sense to me. And like you said, individualising Black Lives Matter, you were a complete divide there. Nobody's got an issue with it.
It is
In my
divided. It's
in my
divide and
opinion,
conquer.
it was police brutality, mate.
Yep.
And it was
Absolutely.
an American issue. It had nothing to do with going across the seas.
Yep.
You know, so that was mad. So
It's incredible. We were subjected to military-grade psychological operations when it came to TV propaganda, without any shadow of a doubt.
yeah. I mean, it was just locked in the house, believe what the telly says, and don't question it.
Yep.
See, when you get the sack, what's the wife thinking? Oh, shit. What have you done now? You've turned down a 20 grand contract with Chelsea.
What was she thinking? I think it came as a bit of a shock to her. I think it was probably less of a shock to me. I kind of, with what was going on, I kind of saw it coming. You know, I was openly criticising the mainstream media, and of course, that was, you know, included Sky News, which is obviously part of the organisation that I worked for. So, but I couldn't say nothing. I couldn't have lived with myself if I said nothing. And if I had to do the same again, I would. I believe it was the right thing to do. And if that meant costing me 50% of my wages, then so be it.
Do you know why? This is why I respect you so much, Matt. I have no idea, mate. Morals over fucking money, man. Morals over money. You know what I mean? You stood your ground, and I do believe you when you said that. If you could do it all over again, I genuinely believe that you would. And you've already said you turned down a contract with Chelsea Tottenham for that amount of week, and I'm absolutely shocked. I mean, the backlash you probably got from it, the abuse you probably got from it, was it just ridiculous? Did it play? I mean, you don't really come across a guy that deals with mental health issues. You know what I mean? I think you're pretty headstrong.
I'm pretty headstrong. Yeah, I've got the hide of a rhino. It would take a lot to upset me. And so, yeah, I mean, I've taken a lot of stick because of my views, and that's fine. People are entitled to their opinion, not a problem. But if you're gonna come on social media and just throw abuse around, yeah, the block button there is there for a reason, and you only get one chance.
Oh, so many idiots, man.
And so yeah, I think the probably the thing that I probably got the most stick about was when the Ukraine-Russia war started up. And I had the temerity to suggest that, you know, during times of war, both sides will engage in propaganda and not just the baddies, you know, and that, you know, in a war there could be actually two sides that are both baddies. You know, it's not good and bad the whole time.
Yeah.
And I, you know, making that suggestion kind of made me, you know, a worse person than Jack the Ripper. And the media just, you know, do what they do. They just try to shut you up and silence you by ridiculing you and mocking you. But they don't make any difference to me. I have my beliefs, I have my views. They're not going to shut me up just because they, you know, throw the word conspiracy theorist around a little bit. You know, it's childish and they need to grow up.
The word's used so loosely, Matt. You know, it's not a conspiracy when it's fact.
Yep.
It's fact. And there's one thing I think I've realised since this whole madness. History is manipulated.
Yeah.
And, you know, we'll go to 10 years' time.
Question everything.
We have to. And, you know, we'll go to 10 years' time. The history books will show this, you know, but we know what the real history was. I'm a victim of this, unfortunately. This will go down in history, Matt. It really will. And we will go down in the right side of history.
I believe that.
But by doing what we do and not backing down, mate, again, this is why I've got them. And I've got to say to everybody, this man did not have to do this. You know, he's done it off his own back. And every time I've messaged you, mate, you've always messaged me back and you've always been really good with me. And I say I really appreciate that you've came on and you've done this. And
no problem at all, mate. You know, I think what we have to do, for me, is, you know, you mentioned divide and conquer there. We have to come together as decent human beings to actually look up and see where the problem is. Don't fight amongst ourselves. No. So it's not vaccinated against unvaccinated. You have to be united in who the real enemy is. And unfortunately, the real enemy is your government.
Yeah. The government and the mainstream media.
And the mainstream media, they're all complicit. They're all controlled by the same people. And they're the ones that are causing all the problems. They're the ones that engineer wars, make themselves richer on the back of it. And the sooner people realise that, the better this world will be, because we could run them out of town.
Yeah, I mean, my brain fog kicked in there at the worst time. But yeah, I mean, where we're at now in 2023, how nobody can see it is absolutely...
I think more and more people are seeing it. More and more people are seeing it. More and more people are questioning it. I've definitely noticed a massive change in the reaction to the stuff that I post on social media. And I think there has been quite a big shift, if I'm honest. So although there is still a large portion that don't want to believe that they were fooled, I still think that the number is growing of the people that do realise that something isn't quite right.
Yeah. So you've obviously been told to beat it from Sky, and that was 2020, is that correct? So there was no mentions
that was
of...
before the vaccines. Yeah, it was nothing
Before
to do with the vaccines.
No, but you stood your ground, and when you seen the vaccines coming out, you started to question it. Now, the question I've got to ask you regarding the vaccines, when they came out, what was your initial thoughts on it?
My initial thoughts were, after what I'd heard Bill Gates say, and when I saw that he was primarily involved in a lot of the funding of all this stuff, and the amount of shares that he had in that stuff, I was like, I'm not so sure about this. And also the fact that I'd spoken to some people who were way more qualified than me in this stuff, but even me as a normal human being can understand that if you've created a vaccine in the space of, what was it, 9 months, 11 months, something like that?
5 months, mate. I think it was shorter than that.
So if you've created a vaccine in that space of time, how do you know what the long-term effects of that are going to be? So for other vaccines, they had to do tests for 10 years and up to 10 years to find out if there was going to be any reactions down the line. Now, they rolled these things out in the space of 9 months, 5 months, whatever it is. They have no idea what the consequences are going to be in a year, 2 years' time. They have no idea whatsoever. They're purely... Or did they have an idea? Did they know?
Well, my understanding is they've been trying to get this mRNA technology since the 80s, and it was patented in 2015, I believe. And I'll say it all day, this will be bigger than the Oxycontin scandal, mate, if I'm being honest with you. And I think when people start to realise that their vaccines made them, turbo cancers.
Yep.
Turbo cancers was non-existent. People go, it happens, mate. It definitely happens. But so you've obviously been about, and then you've thought, right, I'm not touching it.
Yep.
And then
I made a decision very early on.
Did you tweet about that or anything? Or?
Yeah.
How did that go?
I tweeted that I was gonna wait. I didn't rule it out straight away. I said I'm going to wait till there's some long-term safety data on this before I even consider taking it. That was my stance before they came out.
What about your family and that? Were they like, oh, we need to take this? Or?
So my wife and daughter didn't take it, but my parents did, my brothers did, my eldest daughter did, had 1 or 2, I think, but eventually
started to see the truth.
They started to see what was happening. They started to see that, hang on a minute, why do we need a booster? Why do we need 4 of these vaccines in a year for it to work? I mean, how bad is this as a vaccine if you need to take 4 in a year and you still catch what it's trying to protect you from?
Yeah.
So all the lies started coming out, that it wasn't tested for transmission. They didn't even test to see if it stopped you from passing it on to anybody else. Didn't even test it, and yet they were telling us it was safe and effective, and if you take the vaccine, you won't catch it. And they didn't even know, didn't even test for it. It was blatant, outright lies.
And the CEO of Pfizer was asked at the European Parliament, I believe, was this tested to stop transmission? No, we had to go at the speed of science.
Speed of science.
Speed of bullshit.
Speed of bullshit and speed of greed.
Absolutely. So, when did you start to go, there's a problem here? Now, in the football industry, I think when Ericsson dropped, I'm not going to lie to you, I never even questioned the vaccine could have done this, That was 2021, wasn't it, those games? So the vaccine would have been rolled out. Now, Ericsson was the first one that dropped
Yeah, I mean,
live.
I still don't know if he was vaccinated or not. I don't know if it's been made
No, nobody knows.
public knowledge, but common sense tells me that if he wasn't vaccinated, it would have been on the front page of every newspaper. And then I started seeing an increase in games that I was watching, not just football. I watch a lot of sport, and I was seeing young, fit people collapsing on the court at a rate that I'd never witnessed before in my life. And I've always watched a lot of sport. And it was concerning. And I tried to raise the alarm with the authorities in football, with FIFPro, with PFA, with the FA. And I did my best to try and raise awareness. Got nearly 100 other former professionals to sign a letter that I wrote into the PFA demanding an investigation, because of what we were seeing wasn't normal. And then
How
had a
many?
meeting with the
How
FA.
many were you seeing? Were you seeing a lot? Like, were you seeing I know that games were getting stopped, so
Yeah, there was games getting stopped because of people having medical emergencies in the crowd as well.
Yeah.
It wasn't just on the pitch.
Yeah.
There was a lot of games getting stopped nearly every weekend in the Premier League or the Football League. And so I got nearly 100 players to sign the letter to the PFA demanding an investigation. I wasn't even saying this is the vaccine causing this. What I was saying was there's an increase going on here, and we need to find out what it is, whatever that may be. Just an independent investigation to find out why these young, fit people are collapsing on a pitch at a rate that I've never seen before in my life.
do you want me to tell you why I think they are? There's a couple of reasons why I think they are. Now, I had a condition called POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. Now, what POTS wants to do, it wants to make your heart go at that, because the blood circulation is not getting around the body.
Yep.
So what it means is when I'd sit down, my heart rate would be 70 beats per minute. When I stood up, instantly my blood's not getting round. Blood wants to start getting really, the heart wants to work harder. Heart rate will go up to 140, 150, 160 beats per minute. Now, when you seen me back in January, I still had it, but I've somehow, whoever's up there looking over me, it's went away. I've still got a whole load of other issues going on.
Yep.
I was away meditating before you came in and stuff. Now, I've also got myocarditis. Now, what myocarditis does, it wants to restrict the heart. So it puts inflammation around the heart. So when you put inflammation around the heart, it makes your heart want to squeeze, because when you're standing up, the heart's going like that.
Yeah.
The myocarditis, it could kill you. And I'd love a cardiologist to turn around and prove me wrong with that one, because at one point, Matt, I felt like somebody went into my chest. It felt like somebody grabbed it and twisted it 3 times, and I dropped to the floor. Do you remember that? I dropped to the floor, and I thought, I'm going to go. And luckily, I did drop to the floor. That's one of the reasons. And the other thing is ventricular tachycardia, which this thing has been known now to do, which is the electrical circuit in the heart, and it's not firing up. So these young guys, you young footballers, I'm going to tell you right now, if you do listen to this, and I hope you do pass this to them, Matt, if you are getting chest pain, uncomfortable heart pains, it is not normal. You need to see a top cardiologist. It is not anxiety. It needs to be seen and dealt with. And the doctors, you guys really need, especially in the Premiership, you guys really need to look into this, because you have athletes, and it's athletes that this thing mainly affects, by the way.
I noticed. Yeah. I noticed. Well, it stands to reason if people who are putting that much stress on their heart, like professional athletes, then that's going to show up sooner in those kind of people than what it would in people in normal day life, I guess. Mm-hmm. It doesn't take a genius to work that out.
So, with athletes dropping, the pundits, did any of them turn around and say, Matt, I'm seeing this?
Yeah. I've had a few privately that have messaged me and gone, keep doing what you're doing. You know, I can't say anything because I can't lose my job. I'm not in a position to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And that's for them to live with their consciences. That's up to them. They have to make their own decisions. I made a different decision, and I decided to speak out because I felt so strongly about it that I think it would have eaten me up inside if I didn't speak out.
What's your thoughts on? I'm not going to lie to you, mate. I think your pundits are cowards. If I'm not going to beat around the bush. I think for all you that have sat there and you all know this man for 15 years, 18 years, and none of you went like that, I think there should be a petition, Matt, to get you back into Sky Sports, if I'm being completely honest. So let's see if we can start that one. But
no, I wouldn't want to work for that organisation again, mate.
I remember that thing you went to, which is remember the audience in Glasgow?
Oh, yeah.
You went to it and you came over and said hello, and I seen Charlie Nicholas. And I ran up to Charlie and I went, how you doing in that? Is it no bad? I said, got a photo of you, Charlie? Yeah, no problem. The way Charlie is. And I says, you know, Matt, he went, I says, I'm going to a thing tomorrow. Oh, is that stuff? And I went, aye. I looked him in the eye and I went like that. I said, I nearly died for that vaccine, Charlie. And he just, and I went like that. See that man over there? Do you have any idea how many people's lives that man probably saved by doing what he's done? And I said, I think you should all go and say sorry to him. And he just kind of, oh, right, no bother, pal, you know what I mean? And off he went. But for doing what you've done, Matt, it's incredible that you're still here, and you know you can stand by knowing that you've done the right thing. And honestly, I applaud you for it. I think you're a phenomenal man for doing what you've done. But I think it's time for you all to pick the phone up and say it, because like I said to you, I might look okay, but me and Alex Mitchell, if you don't know his story, and I hope the footballers don't hear, that man lost a leg to AstraZeneca, proven by the government, proven by the doctors. Go and listen to the other podcasts, funeral celebrants, ex-paramedics, the rise in deaths. It is not a conspiracy theory. This is all true, this is all fact, and all you were trying to do, Matt, was possibly say, this could happen to you.
Yeah. I think that's kind of what it's all been about, just trying to raise awareness and give everybody. I think for me, it was about giving everybody the full facts, because I really resented what I was seeing on the television for the first, well, still going now, where you only get one side of the story. You only get fed the government propaganda on the mainstream news channels. And there was another side of the story out there, which I think everybody should be privy to. And that's not to say, and I'm not saying that I'm right 100% of the time, but what I've always said is that everybody should be able to hear both sides of the story before making up their own mind, and not just be force-fed one side of a story and battered into you for day after day, hour upon hour on the news channels. And that's the thing that I've kind of been fighting against, to get out the other side of the story. And do you know what? If you listen to the other side of the story and you think to yourself, yeah, I don't think that's right, fair enough. That's up to you. But at least listen to the other side of the story before you make your mind up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, like I said, mate, total respect to you for what you've done now. I just want your fellow colleagues. We need more Matt Tissiers, if I'm being honest, because listen, you need to understand, and I'll say it all day, Matt, you were all injected with a lie. You were all injected with a lie. And I do want to touch on more heart issues and anything in young players, but we will wrap it up soon, don't worry. Well, obviously there was a documentary that was made that you were in and I was in, which was Safe and Effective, A Second Opinion. And for any of you that haven't watched it, and you do know, Matt, go and watch it, because it's nothing but government data. It's nothing but factual. Nobody can debunk this documentary, mate. Nobody can. And when I was in it, Matt, I genuinely believed I was dying. I still think I'm dying, to be honest with you, mate. I'm not going to lie to you. And, you know, with that documentary, you know, has any of your colleagues seen that documentary? Did you turn around to them?
I've shared it with as many people as I could. I don't think too many of them would have sat down and watched it, if I'm honest. I think they're so entrenched, and they're taking their position, and they don't want to feel like they were wrong. And I guess they don't want to feel like they've got something inside them that might be harming them. And that's a tough position for them to be in, and I understand that.
But see with that, one thing I'll say to anybody, that if that's your attitude, I'm not going to sit and say everybody's going to get injured.
No.
Right? And one thing we do know, This thing doesn't just happen instantly.
No.
It can happen months later. See, if you don't accept it and you don't know what's going on with you, I can tell you right now, the NHS will not put pen to paper and the NHS will not help you with this. As soon as you realise it's a vaccine injury, you can get the right doctors that can help you. So if you're in that kind of way that, you just want to ignore it, once you learn what it is, it means that you get something to work with to try and get better. Like I said, Matt, I was 14 months bedridden, mate.
Yeah.
Absolutely mental torture, screaming at the telly every day. Why is nobody talking about this? You know, mate?
Yeah.
It's just madness.
I feel your pain, mate.
And one thing I'll say is, I seen a video the other day, because I was looking up Matt Le Tissier interviews, and I thought, I want to do this one different. I want to do it a wee bit different. I hope I have, by the way. And one came up and it was John Barnes. And John Barnes said that, I was talking about you and stuff. And even John Barnes said, I've got 2 doctors in the family, right? I've got 2 doctors in the family, and these 2 doctors have told me this is the right thing to do. Now, I think this was 8 months or a year ago. Understand, John Barnes, your 2 doctors in your family are fucking idiots at this point in time, because they're not looking at the data. They're not doing the right thing. And anybody who's, at this point, you're administering this and you're telling people to go for it, there's going to be a hell of a lot more deaths and a hell of a lot more injuries. And I can tell you right here, right now, when it goes wrong, the person that picks it up in Scotland is myself, Alex, and a woman called Ruth. Why am I picking up the NHS and the government's problems, Matt?
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. I think the way that you guys have been treated is nothing short of a crime against humanity. You guys did what you thought was the best thing to do, what you were told to do by your governments, because that was the right thing to do. And you have been treated appallingly, given what has been proven to have made you so poorly. And that's why, again, that's one of the reasons why I will continue to speak out. I'll continue to try and do whatever I can to possibly help.
Bring the noise.
Bring the noise. That's what we try and do. Just try and get the story out there, because the more people that know, the more people that are brave enough to speak out, the more pressure comes on governments and things, and the more pressure that comes on these pharmaceutical companies who are massive, massive criminals. There's no other word to describe them. And that was one of the other reasons why I wasn't going to be taking any of their stuff, because I knew that they had been fined billions of dollars in the past for dodgy practices. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of a pandemic, they find a magical vaccine for a coronavirus, which they've never done before in years and years, decades of trying. They've never been able to do it, and all of a sudden 4 companies found a magic vaccine in the space of 5 months. Bullshit. And so,
One of the latest videos I've seen as well, Dr. John Campbell, the same code from the code from the vaccine was never the same code as the virus. They
also didn't. I think I saw. I'm not sure if it was the same guy actually, who said that the vaccine that was given out was actually different from the one that they used in the trials.
Yep. I know, 100%.
How does that work?
And it's the reason why Dr. John Campbell can't get ripped down is because he's using all proper data. The man, they talk about cancel culture, Matt. Do you want to know the honest answer? I reckon that me and Alex are the most cancelled and most silenced people. They talk about this Andrew Tate, so he's the most silenced. Me and Alex cannot get on YouTube. The first podcast I done, funeral celebrant, 1,000 views within, I think it was 3 hours. Ripped down, mate. For a woman that works in the industry, a man that's been affected, and and I'm trying to. And the reason I'm doing this, Matt, is to raise awareness, to let people, because
that's what we're all doing.
It comes in so many different. It's not just heart issues. It's so many
pages and pages of side effects that nobody was ever told about when and that's the other thing. Informed consent. How many people were told of the risks? Were told of all those side effects they knew about?
Zero.
Nobody. Shocking.
Get to your mic, you. Trust me, it's this all night. But yeah, I mean, we'll finish this up soon, Matt, honestly, because I'm dizzy as hell. But Yeah, I mean, John Barnes sitting there the other day, and I think John Barnes jumped on the Black Lives Matter thing, and he said a thing about Celtic, and he said a black manager at Celtic didn't really get a good chance. No, the real truth is you don't really get a chance at Celtic when you lose 3-4 games. You don't get a result in 3-4 games, and he had the worst. He lost to Inverness Cali Thistle, mate. That was the worst defeat in Celtic's history.
Super Cali, go ballistic, Celtic Ultras.
And I remember that like it was yesterday. But so just with the people you're working with still, are you starting to see them change and go, you are right? And are they still seeing these?
I tell you what I've noticed is that they don't really take the mickey as much as they used to.
They can't.
Because when it first all kicked off, I was still doing some work with them after we got sacked for Paddy Power and stuff, and they were, Charlie and Tomo were taking the mick out of me for being a conspiracy theorist. And,
Alan Thompson,
Phil Thompson.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's been less and less when I've seen them the last few times.
I really wish there was more Matt Tissiers. All it takes, me and Alex were speaking the other day, and that's what we said. We said we just need a bunch of them to stand up and say, people have died. This is the harsh reality of it. I mean, just recently, Matt, don't know if you've seen it, a young girl, 27 years of age.
I did see that, yeah.
Footballer.
Yeah.
She actually had an advert saying, I believe she's died. Another football,
Yeah.
like.
It is. So, I mean, there's only so many times you can say, "Oh, it's just a coincidence." There's only so many times you can say that. It's not coincidence, I'm afraid.
How many times did this happen in your lifetime? Young people dropping down,
honestly,
stopping the game?
I've said many a time, 17 years professional career, I didn't have not one incident in 17 years. Not just on the pitch. I'm talking about training 5 days a week for 11 months a year. Not one.
I always wanted to know if Aguero retired early as well. That's another one I wanted to find out, Aguero. But why did he not just come out and say, that's what this has done to me? It's done it to me. I know that maybe I've lost my livelihood, Matt. I'm still struggling on the daily. This is the only thing that keeps me alive now. What I've realised is nobody's coming to save me. So I'll just bring the noise and do this myself. But it's going to come out, and I know there's big court cases coming out, and the COVID inquiry, we were at that a few weeks ago as well. And, this is how fucked up it is. Even the speech that our lawyer, right now, our lawyer that's representing us, Terry, do you know Terry?
Yeah,
He done the Hillsborough disaster. Hey, Terry, I asked him, I says, why are you doing this, Terry? He says, this is personal, John. He says, I know people personally. And when Anna done her speech, it was phenomenal. I was in tears, Matt. See, when that woman came out, I grabbed it and I went, you have no idea what you've just done for me, and the amount of people that have thinking. I gave a laugh. So after it, Terry went, the Telegraph want to speak to you. I went, all right, okay. So we go into a room. Alex and everybody sitting there. Charlotte, right, young boy there. Joe, I think his name is. Joe lost his father. A couple other injured are there. Daily Telegraph sitting there. They're sitting there. Terry's sitting next to me. They turn around and say, so what we want to do is we want to do this, that, and the next thing, and blah, blah, blah. Sitting talking about it. I'm just sitting there. I wear the shades because I've got light sensitivity. I just try and keep them off for this because I don't want to look like a bit of a dick. And they're sitting there and they're saying, and people, and I just turned round and I just slammed the table. I said, 2.5 years too fucking late. I says, that woman over there, Charlotte, right, lost her husband, 2 children now left without a father. That young boy there lost a dad. Know what I mean? He's 20 whatever year old. That man over there, leg amputated, proven. And I says, and now you want to talk to us. Did they take my number? They did. Have I heard from them? No, I haven't.
No.
I'll never be in the mainstream media, Matt, because I've spoke out against it too much. And one day I reckon they will take a a vaccine injured, and they'll tell them what to say and what to do and that. And the honest answer is that it can't not come out, and this is the honest truth. It will come out, and this will be the new PPI.
Yeah.
And do you know the people that fought for that? See, when everybody's getting a claim in the future, it was me, Alex, and all the UKCV family that were.
Yeah. I hope people remember that. And
they fucking better.
Drop me a donation.
But speaking of donations, if anybody's watching, please buy me a coffee or donate to the PayPal link, because I do want to get more of these stories out. I do want to touch on other subjects, because, you know, we'll finish this off very soon, Matt. I really appreciate this. But in regards to the future, mate, what do you see for the future of the UK? Because once you see it, you just can't unsee the rest. Would that be right?
That's exactly right. So yeah, once the veil has been lifted, it's hard. You see the corruption all around. You see that our political system is so broken. It's just, it's mind blowing. I mean, I've always been a positive, hopeful person, and I still believe to this day that there are way more good people on this planet than there are bad, and that the good will prevail over evil, because I think that's what it is at the moment. It is a battle of good versus evil, and unfortunately evil are in charge of the laws in the country and the media in the country, and it's difficult to get the fight out there, but I believe we are winning, and I believe we will win.
Do you believe in some sort of spiritual war we're in, or something?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
I was never a believer in God, Matt. And then I bought a cross room. I'm going to tell you this. I've not really spoke about it, because somebody will tell me. In my bed, believing I was dying, mate. No hope, no help at all. Now, I'm not going to sit and say that all NHS doctors and that are bad, but when it comes to this subject, they do not want to put pen to paper in what they're telling me. It was in my head, man. I didn't know where to go. Someone turned around to me and says, you need to pray to God. So I went on to Amazon and I bought this cross. The day it arrived, mate, I remember like it was yesterday. I stood up out of my bed, crying, tears in my eyes, grabbed this thing as hard, and I said, I promise you, I make you this promise right here, right now. I make you this promise. If you can get me out of my bed, you can get my heart rate back to normal, and you can get me better. I make you this promise right now. I will make as much noise about this as possible. I will make as much and try and help as many people as I possibly can. Went back to my bed, didn't think anything of it. 2 days later, Matt, a woman messages me. She's seen me on Instagram. She went, John, I've seen your story. God's screaming out to me. God is screaming out to me to get to reach out. She went, I want you to get in contact with this doctor. Right? And I was like, right, okay. I contacted him. This man came out to my bed. 3.5 hours. This man worked for the NHS high up in his field, right? He had to leave after he seen the rollout of the vaccine. He seen that people were dying. He said, I can't deal with this. He came out of my bed, and all I had to hear, Matt, was a doctor turn and say, I believe you, and I can get you better. It was the best £380 I'd ever spent in my life. But that man, as soon as he done that, after that, Matt, I don't know, I think someone's watching, because after that, the documentary Safe and Effective in London, I'm doing this off all my own back, mate. I don't want anything. I don't want likes or follows, mate. I want things to be put right.
Yeah.
I have people that are dying, mate. I have people that are dying, and they have no help and support. And I don't understand it. And people can't. This whole, it didn't happen to me, it's fine. There's always an adverse reaction. Fuck me.
Yeah.
It's all right because it didn't happen to you.
Yeah, I know those people drive me up the wall. Honestly, mate, what you have done, the courage that you have shown, has been nothing short of phenomenal. And you should be really proud of yourself. So should your family.
They tell me every day, but I just want things done right, mate. That's it.
It's all we all want, mate. It's all we all want.
Yeah. So one thing I will say, again, I'll go back to it, the NHS, and I will say that I don't mean to say that every doctor's stupid, and I will say that you just need to realise you've all been handed a lie. The data has been manipulated. there is people dying. Turbo cancers are up, and it just needs to get set right. But and like I said to you, Matt, when you see this, you can't unsee the rest. I mean, people realise the vaccine was the biggest lie in medical history. I said it's scary the times we're coming into. The cashless society. Anybody that's watching, look up 20-minute cities
50,
in Edinburgh.
Yeah,
it's in the blueprint.
Absolutely.
So what do you see in the future, Matt?
Well, I certainly seen a massive kickback against those 15-minute cities down here in Oxford and places like that, and people are slowly but surely rising against the establishment. We've seen what's happened with the ULEZ cameras.
Loving it.
Absolutely. I mean,
the Blade Runners are fucking phenomenal.
And can you believe that just because Lawrence Fox said that he agreed with them, that they send half a dozen coppers around his house to arrest him? Honestly, the world has gone completely bonkers, and the sooner people realise, and I think they are starting to realise, these people who are in power, who are traitors to this country, will be not free to roam the streets at some point.
I mean, Matt Hancock's on Channel 4 SAS being hailed as a fucking celebrity.
I'm gutted I was asked to go on that show as well.
Seriously?
Oh, honestly.
Fuck off.
I had an email.
Oh, you fucking hell, Matt. What, this year?
I had an email a few weeks ago, yeah. I'm not sure I don't know if that would have been for next year's series. I don't know but it was a couple of months back. I had an email come through asking me if I was interested. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Thank you. I didn't even ask how much it was worth.
Oh, man,
that's... No, you're right. And then I saw his name up there and I thought, oh, no. Maybe I should have done it.
Oh, mate. Can you see the bit?
I would have smashed him.
There's a bit, oh, mate, I fucking wish you would, man. The only closest I'll get to is that cardboard cutout I took to London, but it's like I say, mate, that it's scary times ahead, and the cashless thing, I think it's going to happen. I think cashless was already introduced when, see with the chip and pin, I see when it was everybody could just scan. I think that was the start of it, but
yeah, they do it incrementally. It's the boiling the ethical frog thing. It's how they try to implement all their stuff. They do it really, really gradually, so people don't notice. But I think more and more people are noticing, and it's going to be a hell of a battle.
Yeah, man. Well, everyone just needs to stand up and get together, like you say.
Absolutely.
Unity, mate. We win in numbers. The government are very small, but we are large. But listen, Matt, I hope I covered everything, mate.
I think we did a pretty good job.
I hope I covered
there,
everything, mate. And I'm sorry you've got a bad back. I'm really, really dizzy, and I hope that. And for people have said to me, keep interrupting. It's because I've got brain fog and that, and I apologise. But
don't worry, mate.
Honestly, mate, I really appreciate this, and bring the noise, mate.
Always
bring the noise, mate. Appreciate it, mate. God bless you, mate. And for all yous, stand up with this man, and he's doing the right thing. If he's all done what he done, the world will be a better place. Thank you.